Welcome to Noah Radio. I am making kind of a unscheduled episode today because it is Noah's birthday. It would be Noah's 22nd birthday today. And the reason I wanted to make this episode is because things are happening this morning that I just wanted to share with you. There's a happy one and there's a not so happy one. And they go together, they play together. Maybe you wonder if we're being a little bit harsh about some of the things that we say, even say about mothers, that be so manipulative and so hurtful, or that we say that it can be just completely hopeless. And so I want to use this, I want you to hear this story, and then you judge for yourself, okay? Those of you who follow my channel probably know that I had a son who died. He was very trauma bonded with his sociopathic father, and he was just born into a really bad situation. Of course, I didn't know that when I decided to have children, and I thought that I was going to give them a really great life. Instead, I brought two babies into really what ended up being a nightmare situation. That when they were 3 and 5 years old, I had a heart attack and a nightmare ensued, and the rest of both of their childhoods was basically destroyed. You know, of course, we fit in wonderful memories and things where we could, but as far as I was excluded from the family from that point forward, so they didn't remember anything really before this happened. So any happy memories they were from when they were very, very young. My youngest son's only memory of me together with the family was remembering my mother yelling at me. It was actually at a birthday party that I was having for him. And so one of his really earliest memories and one of his only memories of me together with the family, because I've been excluded from the family ever since I got sick and had the audacity to need them to help me out. My husband left me when I got sick, and he didn't see me as useful to him, and my parents followed suit. They were triggered, and they had an excuse and a way of doing this, going about this, and all of that. And so when my son died, it kind of brought up a bunch of the feelings and things resurged in me. A lot of the behaviors and things reactivated in my family. And I started this channel to talk about what was basically going on. Because up until that point, and my kids both just past being children when I started the channel. My youngest child was 18. You know, up until that point, I just really felt like I had to fly under the radar screen and try and get my kids to safety as best I could and not cause any conflicts, not cause any chaos. They were legally bound to being with their family. They could make some choices and stuff like that. And I was finally just needing to speak out and talk about what had happened and help some people, because it was, enough of a nightmare had taken place that I felt like I had to turn it all to some good and share what I had learned over at that point, 15 years. There was 15 years between my heart attack and my near-death experience and the whole discard thing that happened, and when my son died. And I started the channel just about like a month or so later. And so that, you guys have been going on that first year journey with me, and now we're into the second year. And so my son died at 20. Today was his 22nd birthday. Anyhow, so actually I have one episode that I haven't even uploaded yet. It was about the gaslighting of the next generation, and how I saw that happening, and how I was getting nervous about my son being around the family, how he was no longer obligated to be around the family, and how I was hoping that he would choose not to be around the family, but I couldn't really tell him to not do it, but I hoped he would make that choice. Birthday party last summer, and after my son died, if you can imagine this, my family was together with my nieces, my brother's daughter, celebrating her birthday with my ex-husband, and they didn't invite me, they invited my ex-husband, and my son went, and he came home and he told me about it. And I didn't know about it until it was over. And of course it hurt, it hurt. And I made an episode about that because I was surprised that it hurt so much. I was surprised that I was, still unresolved about it. And it was also just about the relentlessness of that, and how viscerally wrong it felt to me. As a mother, as a person, it just felt so creepy to think that they were there with this guy who had just done all this really bad stuff to me. Well, what I realize is it's still really hard. It's really hard for us to put our mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters in the same category that we're maybe putting an ex-husband. He was a diagnosed sociopath. I got a formal diagnosis for him. I have an episode about that too. And my family is not diagnosed, although when I tell you some of the things that I'm going to tell you, I think it would be hard pressed for anyone to say that there is not just some really clear, malignant and pathological narcissism going on here. And so cluster B personality disorders are people that fall into those, all of the borderlines, the narcissistic personality disorders, the histrionic, the antisocial personality disorders, which is also the psychopath and sociopath. Those are just scientific terms that are used. And basically, these are all the people that really lack empathy. It's like I had a history of growing up watching them treat people this way because I didn't. This seems to be very, very specific to me. And actually, not even to me my whole entire life. They were narcissistically abusive my entire life. That is true. But the degree to which it has ratcheted up, the ease at which they decided to discard me and make me the enemy was just so easy for them to do. And then the way that they have been so aggressively attacking me ever since. And nothing seems to let it up. Nothing. My child dying, nothing. And so this is where it's really shifted my understanding of the disorder and of my family. And I tell the stories that I tell just to be illustrative and just to, to give an example in a real life of how this sort of looks. Because it's one thing to hear the theories and to hear how it is, but it's another thing entirely to really see how it works in a life, because it's so much subtler. It's harder to, at least this is always true for me. I read about a disorder, I can read about the description of what it's like, and it sounds like, oh, really good and clear, but then it can be happening, and I have a harder time identifying it. Like, oh, is this that? And so that's why I do so much I share so many of my stories. And because I have a really vast array of relationships. I guess if you want to put a silver lining on this is one way to do it, is you can say, okay, if you can't escape your past, so go ahead and make a future out of it. And so I can take this crazy past that I've had in all these relationships, all these abusive relationships, and I have the whole gamut. I have boyfriends and romantic relationships. I have the sibling relationships. I have the parental relationships. I have friend relationships that were all abusive. And I can talk about the diagnosed sociopath. I have narcissists. I have the whole thing. And so the good news of that is that I have the ability to share my personal experiences and give a wide variety of, illustrations about how all these different things can manifest and how they can look. That is maybe what is a little bit unique about my channel. And, basically all the relationships in my life were sick, basically. They were all sick. People that I had in my life that really truly loved me unconditionally were grandparents. And by the time this blew up, they were on their way. They were really, really, really old and about to die. At the point when my life started blowing up, it was really out of balance, and I didn't know that because I was surrounded by people. I was surrounded by a husband. I was surrounded by a brother and a sister-in-law, my parents, and so on. How it ended up playing out is that there was pretty much one level or another of narcissism going on and imbalance in just about every relationship that I had left after my grandparents were no longer around. So it was very, very imbalanced. And then it got to be as bad as it did because once I introduced the sociopath into my life, who is my husband, he triggered all the narcissists. All the narcissists that had potential to be problematic, he triggered them all. He just played them like a fiddle because they were so vulnerable to flattery and they were so paranoid. There were things about my family that I did not understand, things about them that were totally unlike me. And so this is another really big lesson, is that you think that you have this family, you have these friends, people, and you think they think like you. So you project onto them just as they're projecting onto you. So you're projecting onto them all your good qualities. They're projecting onto you all their bad ones. You don't even know that they're doing that. And so all this is just a huge learning curve. And you realize, what I've realized is that we've been completely living in totally different realities all this time. So even as I am grieving these losses of these relationships and how it is so terrible, my son died But the truth of the matter is that I had, before he died, I lost everybody else. In a way that was worse because they die over and over again. It's like they're still here with an option to do it differently, and they still hurt me. They still choose not to do it differently. So it's a kind of just relentless pain. And also, because I was court ordered to live within 30 miles of them, I was unable to get away from it. Now I'm really excited because my son is, old enough that he can move away, and I certainly can move away. And, actually, I could have moved away all along, but my kids couldn't. And so, I wasn't going to leave them here. I had a near-death experience where I chose to live because I saw how much my sons would need me, and that they would be surrounded by people, but they would be orphans, and no one would know it because they would be with all these people that could not unconditionally love them. And so I need to be here so I can unconditionally love my kids. Okay, so all this is the background to what happened today. So today is my son's birthday. What my son gets up, he tells me, Mom, I got this text message from your mother. He doesn't even call her my grandmother. He doesn't call her grandma. He says your mother. He says, I got this text message from your mother. They were having a celebration for my mother's first cousin, and they were having a birthday party for her 86th birthday, and they were going to have a get together. And so she sends a text message. My son is 20 years old. His brother died. Okay, she sends my son a text message. Says, we're having a get together for Barbara's birthday. She's turning 86, and we can also celebrate Noah. A little sidebar. Now, why she would think that my son would ever want to do that, I have no idea. But the fact that there's so much wrong with this. She's not inviting me. She's inviting him. She's making Noah the sort of sidebar, the afterthought about it. Then, most people would assume, he's not going to want to come to that. Why would she ever think he would want to? But then, on Noah's birthday this morning, she text messages him and says, well, I guess thoughtfulness is not your strong suit. Or no, I don't even think she said, she's thoughtfulness is not your strong suit. Like it's a big, long history of thoughtfulness not being his strong suit. And finally, I guess that was finally enough. So this was so great. So he comes up, he tells me this, and I'm thinking, because he never has spoken up. He's never said anything. He's never said no. He's never put up a boundary. And, really, he was still operating as a kid a little bit, like he wasn't sure that he could, And so I'm thinking, I'm getting all riled up. And I'm thinking I'm going to have to, first he starts telling me about the birthday party. I'm thinking he's going to, that they were inviting him to celebrate my son's birthday without even inviting me. And it's just so creepy and awful. And so I'm getting ready to, almost ask him not to go. And he says, just a minute, don't interrupt me. And I could see it go, okay. So he says, so I answered her and I said, I am uncomfortable with coming anywhere where my mother would not be invited, where my mother's not included, especially to something trying to celebrate my brother's birth. What would make you think I would want to come there without my mother? And it was so great. It was just so great. It was everything that I would have wanted him to say. And I said, oh, honey, I'm so grateful that you said that. And he felt so proud of himself. He was just like off the hook. Ex-husband, they were cuddled up with him, and he's a sociopath, and he wants to hurt me. And so this is who the kids were always coming over to there with him because they had to. They were kids. Well, once they get the choice to go, she assumes that they're going to still want to betray me. And let me just tell you this, too. There is not any relationship that my mother has maintained in my absence that there has been any good intention for. Every relationship that she has maintained with people that she has known because of me or through me, including my husband, has only been to undermine me, has only been to sabotage me. Every friendship that every friend of mine that she is in contact with, everybody that she has gotten in contact with or stayed in touch with that was through me, those relationships have not ever recovered, and they have been sabotaged completely. And so it's not enough so forget about the fact that I don't hear from my mother. My son has died. She doesn't say anything to me. And And then she does this with my son. Now, on Mother's Day was the last time that I had an interaction with my mother. And this is what I did an episode about that. That was when she called or she wrote a text message or an email message and said, my heart is heavy. I'm crying for you and our precious Noah, or something like that. And I'm like, you're not with me. You haven't been with me in 15 years. I did finally ask her, I'm like, what is the story you tell? What would you say happened here, Mom? What is it you think happened here? And she just had completely flipped the script. I've just completely flipped the script. I had abandoned them. I had all this stuff. That it was all about me and my problems. And the reason that they're in touch with my ex-husband is because I was so angry at them and I wouldn't talk to them, and they wanted to maintain a relationship with their grandsons, and I forced them to do it this way and all that stuff. So, it's really important to remember that even if this is your mother, and this is just really hard for me to wrap my head around, even still, but everything they're saying is a lie. It's going to be to steal basically your life from you and to hurt you. And it is really important that you really understand that and feel like people are objects, just to be used. And so they just have zero emotional connection to you. I even worry about the language that I use, because I know how codependent people or empathic people sometimes can react when they hear these words, and that seems like something to be sympathetic about. If this is something that's been damaged or scarred or dysfunctional, that's not their fault or whatever. You know what? It doesn't matter really whose fault it is. The fact of the matter is that they are dangerous now, and yes, they are making a choice, because they can choose, because they know how to behave. They know how to not do this, because they're not doing this to most people. They're not doing what they're doing to you to most people. They know how to not do it. They are deliberately choosing to do it to you. And in my family's case, they are choosing to do it only to me. Really only to me. Now, that's not to say they have a certain amount of dysfunction and abuse that they are also putting on each other. But this group has collectively decided to make me the scapegoat, and also they were making my sons the scapegoat. And one of my biggest concern with having my son go over there was, my very, very biggest concern was that what the damage they were going to do to him. Now, granted, it would be subtle. It wouldn't be like what they were doing to me, but it would be, what they would be trying to do is they would be trying to sabotage our relationship. They would be trying to sabotage his ability to, trust and have faith and love for me. They'd be trying to put a wedge in there somehow, make him doubt me or something like that. And then they would also be trying to make him doubt himself. And that's what I saw over and over again with my other son, is what they tried to do for years was they tried to drive a wedge between us. They tried to undermine their love for me. And when they couldn't do that, they worked pretty hard and diligently at making them hate themselves. To some degree, he understands that these people have harmed me and are in some way responsible for his brother being gone. He agrees with me that if they had grown up with two loving parents and a loving family environment, that his brother would not be gone. He agrees with me about that. So he understands that there's something wrong now with continuing on and becoming part of the pathology, because my son is now an adult. And so if he goes over there and celebrates without me, he is becoming a participant in the pathology. I wanted to use this example to show you how this sickness just continues, and how they don't get any better, and how it just gets worse and worse and worse, and how there's just no insight, and how the entitlement is just outrageous. I wanted to showcase that for you and show you how this works in a real life. But then I also wanted to show you that there is hope and there is change for someone to move past it and move out. Because this is a very inspiring thing, that my son is not only is he compassionate and able to give and receive love and feel empathy and all of that stuff, but he also can see through the bullshit. He also stood up to it today, and he had integrity. They don't have what he has. He has integrity. He has the ability to love and be loyal and all of these things. This is another important reason to not act out of integrity for yourself, because they will they're busy wanting to, they want you to get in the mud with them. They want you to do that. And the more you don't do that, the more frustrating it is for them. And so my mother loves to say, oh, you're just so angry at everybody. But there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of that at all. I'm not going to lash out at them because it would get me nowhere, and it would make me, it would only prove something to them. It would give them narcissistic supply, and it would give her evidence of what she's trying to say about me, which I don't want to do. I don't want to do. Let her go ahead and say it, but there's no evidence of it. And that these are some of the mistakes that I used to make when my son died, because it was just so, it was really the furthest extreme of just how far this kind of thing can go, and to see even how extreme it continues to go. You have a family now that's had this major crisis. A beautiful 20-year-old, gifted, talented kid is gone. And the thing of it is, too, they're happy he's gone because he loved me, and he told their story. He sang songs about what was wrong with this family. He sang songs about the lack of love and the how there was no role model showing him how to be a man, and how this community of people failed him, and about how much he loved me, and how much he loved his brother. And his songs are all about this stuff. His songs were telling our story. Well, you can imagine they hated that. And they hated that he wouldn't betray me, and they hated that he wouldn't, bind to their narrative and become, another one of their, be fake like them. They hated that, and they love it that he's gone. They love it that he's gone because he was threatened to expose them, and because they love my pain. And so that's another reason why I refuse to let it destroy me. I refuse to. My son and I need to continue on. If we were sitting here just devastated and destroyed, and our lives were ruined, that would be great for them. Now, this is really hard to understand as a parent. You think you can't believe that. You can't really believe that. And I didn't. Believe me, I didn't. Even after this year started, even after I started making this channel, I still didn't totally believe that. They have proved it to me this year. They have proved to me this year just how completely sick and twisted and hostile and really, really destructive and really, really sinister they are. And this is, the sweet little woman that looks like a little granny, that's my mom. No, she is like a killer. She has no empathy towards me, no love towards me. She doesn't feel anything about me like I feel about my kids. So it's really hard for you empaths and out there who you know how you feel about your kids, and you even know how you feel about these abusers. You know how you feel about people, and it's really hard to understand that they do not feel the way you feel. They do not. There is no way that a normal person, or let alone an empathic person, who could be sitting here. Well, you have a child. You see, say I'm in her shoes. I have a daughter who's on her son's birthday, and her son has died. There is no way in hell that I would be not with her today. There is no way that I would not have been with her all year. There is no reason for our estrangement at all, and so she's had to blame it on me. They totally abandoned me. They totally kicked me to the curb when I was in my moment of need. And there's so little reason for it that they have just had to say I did it to them. If you just think about it, it makes no sense. Why would I ever do that? I just almost died. I had 2 little kids. My husband was leaving me. I needed a family. I needed support. Why in the world would I ever turn my back on them? There would be absolutely no reason for me to do that. Of course, this is also why the drug addiction thing works out really well too, because then you can use the drug addiction as the reason why, because it'd be about the only reason why you can think of why someone would ever do that. And so, but the story just really doesn't make any sense. And so they're hoping no one will ask. They're hoping no one will scratch the surface. And they're hoping no one really cares. And really, well, mostly they don't. And so it serves really only to isolate me and make have my kids grow up in a in a dysfunctional family life. And, time and time again over the years, and like right now, I think to myself, think about it, nothing happened here. Nothing happened. There wasn't a natural disaster that tore us apart. There wasn't a disease. There wasn't anything that happened to our family. Yet we're torn apart. It wasn't like, we were in the airplanes at 9/11. We were in the Twin Towers. We were in Hurricane Katrina. We weren't in car accidents. We weren't, until my Sunday, we were all here, healthy. I almost died. They watched me almost die. They almost lost me. This was not a wake-up call for them. This was, try to imagine that. Try to imagine you get resuscitated in front of your family. They're waiting there. They're listening to me outside the door, getting resuscitated. I am a hair away from dying. And they come in and they don't even hug me. They're not even that happy that I'm alive. And I have done nothing but be a devoted daughter to them. He doesn't have to anymore. And so I'm so glad that as soon as he doesn't have to, as soon as he starts to realize that he didn't have to, that he didn't. This makes me very, very proud of him. And I also think that it's a great first step in his healing. His healing from this CPTSD starts with him coming to terms with what happened. It starts with coming to terms with who are the abusers and how was he abused and what all went down here. And this is a great first step. And, this is very encouraging to me that he's doing that he's on his road to recovery, that he's not in denial about what the truth is. And that is really, really a great positive sign. That's the most important piece of this whole thing. The most important piece of this whole entire exercise here. Well, there's two things. One is just how dangerous these people are, that it is so relentless, that even with my son dying, and even with seeing me almost die, and even with all the things that have happened, and knowing how precious life is, and all this stuff, this is what they will do, and that it doesn't get better, and that's how hopeless it is. So that's lesson number one, is how dangerous they are, and how hopeless it is, and just how bad they are. And then lesson number two is that there is hope for anybody who gets real, who looks at what's really going on and isn't participating in it, but you have to get away from it. You have to stay away from it. You can't be part and parcel of this whole sick, twisted thing. And my son's not. He is not part of the system. And my nephew, so far, appears to be a really exceptional person, an exceptionally sweet person, because he's 16 years old, and he is one of the only people that, and he was the first to send me a message about my son's birthday today. And I think that's extraordinary. I think it's extraordinary that of the very few people that this 16-year-old boy is one of the ones that did, and the very first. I think that's extraordinary. The good news is that, at least so far, is that my son's been intimidated. He stood up for what was right. He wasn't going to allow them to gaslight him and lie to him about what happened, and I think that's just a great sign. And then that also his 16-year-old cousin also seems to, at least so far, holding on to love and compassion, and I haven't done anything to him, and he loved his cousin, and that's all that matters to him, at least so far. So, so there is hope there for the younger generation. I'm encouraged. Anyway, guys, it's my son's 22nd birthday. I wanted to share this with you. I wanted to just talk to you about, the seriousness of this problem, and just kind of give you a little illustration about how bad it can be, on your kid's birthday, that this kind of thing would happen, but that there is hope. There is hope. Last year we had a party with all of his friends. This year is quieter than that. We're just gonna, watch a movie and go to dinner, his favorite movie. All right. You guys, thanks a lot for being there for me, and I hope this helped you. I hope you learned something, and I will talk with y'all very, very soon. Bye-bye.